Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Metropolitan Board of Zoning Appeals for its regularly scheduled meeting of May 1st, 2025. I'm Joey Hargis, the Metro Zoning Administrator, and I'm here to present the cases for review in today's public hearing. Board would ask if you would please put your cell phone on silence or vibrate so as not to disturb today's meeting. Truthfully, you'll probably want to do that anyway because there's not much of a signal in this room and you're just draining battery power anyway. So. The procedure will be go through the case record as the Codes Administration has it. We'll do so. We'll take those cases in order listed on the agenda. I've got one addendum to that. That will occur at the bottom of page 2. There should be a case that did not make the printed agenda, but it was noticed. Case 2025-33, that's a case on Douglas Avenue. That case will be heard right after case 31. That's listed on our agenda. I apologize for leaving it off the printed agenda, but and then procedure will be go through the record as the Codes Department has it. I'll do so on the wall up front by means of a PowerPoint presentation. I'll present the photographs that were taken by the Codes Department as well as any plans submitted by applicant. And then when I'm done, the applicant will come first to the table right up in front there. There's 4 seats. On the microphone stand at that table, there will be a little button. It's kind of a 50-50 button around the microphone stand. You want to push the right side of that microphone stand. Your mic will turn red, kind of like mine is. Once it's red, if you'll identify yourself, give us your name and address, and then say what you'd like to say to the board. In cases without opposition present, applicants will have 5 minutes to present their testimony to the board. That time is kept just to the right of where you're sitting at a clock just in front of Miss Davis's podium on the far side over there. It will run for your testimony. It will stop if there's questions asked of you by the board members and your answer to the board's questions. We won't run any time on that, but once we're done with the question and the answer, we'll start it right back up. But you'll have 5 minutes to present your case if you're an applicant who does not have opposition present. But if you do have opposition present today, or any parties that have questions or concerns about a case, you'll have 10 minutes to present your case to the board. Of that 10 minutes, you'll want to save some of your 10 minutes for rebuttal. You do get a chance to rebut the opposition's statements. The opposition will then come up and put on their case. They will have 10 minutes. That's 10 minutes in total, not per speaker. So if you've got multiple people that want to talk on a case, you'll have to divide your 10 minutes accordingly. Do that before you come up and work out who's speaking and for how long. And then after the applicant's 10-minute period expires, again, like I said, the opposition's 10-minute period expires, the applicant will have a period for rebuttal. Opposition, you don't get a rebuttal to a rebuttal. So you get one chance to speak to this board, and that's right after the applicant goes first. Once the board's asked all the questions they want to ask and you've given all the testimony that you want to give, we'll close the public hearing. The board members will discuss the case and then vote on it right in front of you. You have to have all 4 votes today for your case to pass. If you don't have all 4 votes, your case will be denied. Under the Metro Zoning Code, cases that fail to have 4 affirmative votes are allowed to stay on this board's agenda for the next 30 days. Unfortunately, given the calendars, we don't have another meeting within the next 30 days. So if your vote ties today, your case will be denied by operation of law. The next case after the next hearing by this board after today will be June the 20th. That'll be on a Friday. We normally meet the 1st and 3rd Thursdays of each month. June 5th, I apologize. Our next meeting will be June 5th. And that will be beyond the 30 days. So again, if your case ties today, a 3-1 vote, a 2-2 vote, your case will be denied by operation of law. We do have, swears he's going to wear his Hawaiian shirt that day, so we'll see how that goes. So that's kind of the lay of the land today. I'll go through, I've made some preliminary answers for get started, but now that we're on the record, let me also just say again that cases on page 3, cases 38, Mr. Radford on Buchanan Street, in case 39, Cobalt Ventures case at 3401 Hopkins have both been withdrawn. And those cases will not be heard today. On our agenda, we have first item before we begin. Actually, let me circle back. The board, we adopted new rules at our last meeting. So under your new rules, we do allow council members to present testimony to the board. Under these new rules, council members, if you're here either in support or opposition to a case, we will count that time toward the appellant or the opposition if you're presenting a case. But you're welcome to speak before the public hearing begins. You may also speak at the time of the hearing if you want to wait till then. It's still your choice on that, but unlike before where it was untimed, it will be timed and counted against whichever way you're speaking. If it's more of a neutral, hey, I don't really take a position, just, we'll just do as we've always done. So that I do see one council member present. Are there any other council members present that I don't see in the room? Councilman, do you want to address the board before public hearing or during the case? Or?
I'll wait for the case, thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir. Councilman Parker, and didn't see any other council members? Okay, all right. So we got the preliminary stuff out of the way. The first item on our agenda today is a case that is tied on votes. For those members that, or for those parties present today, a case.
Joey, you're going to go through the consent agenda?
Oh, we can?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, sorry. Let's rewind just a little bit. The board does have a consent agenda, and what a consent agenda is the chair before the meeting reviews the record, and if in his opinion the case meets the criteria for the application that's been requested, and they feel that testimony would not alter those material facts, he recommends a case to the remainder of the board for consent. I'm going to call those cases now on consent agenda. And if you're here against the case number that I call, please raise your hand. We'll hear the case in its regular order on the agenda. So the first case recommended for the consent agenda by Chairman Pepper is case on page 2, case 2025-17. Mr. Gobral, the St. Mary Coptic Orthodox Church of Nashville, is the appellant owners of the property at 1943 Dabbs Avenue, requesting a special exception to allow the construction of a church on the property. Are there any parties present on case 17, the Dabbs Avenue case, in opposition to a case? Mr. Chairman, seeing no opposition, that case has been recommended for consent. The next case recommended for consent is not listed on the printed agenda, but it involves case 33. Sorry, bear with me one second here. This is the case on Douglas Avenue, at 904 Douglas Avenue. Thank you, Tamika. I'm drawing a blank on the street number. 904 Douglas Avenue. I did speak with one party that was present. Are there any other parties in opposition or have questions to the request? Miss, are you still in opposition or have questions regarding case? Were you able to get information to your satisfaction in that case? Okay. Mr. Chairman, she is answering in the affirmative. Are there any other parties present for the case 33? Mr. Chairman, seeing none, that case is recommended for consent. Hardship due to the topography and the large easement that bisects the property as listed on the site plan. Okay, let's see here. Our next case recommended for consent is case 2000 and on page 4, case 2025-40. Mr. James Perrineau, appellant owner of the property at 3901 Baxter Avenue, requesting variance in street setbacks to construct. It says single-family residence. It's actually in addition to the single-family residence. Are there any parties present in opposition to the case at 3901 Baxter Avenue? That's case number 40. Mr. Chairman, the record reflects no hands raised. That case is recommended for consent. And then finally, the last case, and then I'll recap all of them. Case 2025-41, Martha Butterfield and Randy Haley, the appellants for the property at 1517B Mary Street, requesting variance in the rear setback to construct a garage addition. Are there any parties present in opposition to case 41 at 1517 Mary. Okay, seeing no hands. Again, Mr. Chairman, recapping, your consent agenda is cases 17, 33, 40, and 41.
Okay.
I'll move we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor? Okay, that passes 4-0. All those go on the consent.
Okay, what that means, if you're here for cases 17, 33, 40, and 41, your cases have been approved. You're free to go about your day. Be sure to follow up with the Codes Department beginning on Monday regarding permits and subsequent approvals that you might need for your case. Yes, sir. While those parties depart, I'm going to attempt to see if my PowerPoint's working. Good, it is. Okay. Okay, the first case on our agenda today is not a public hearing. It's case 2025-15. Mr. Asin Chandri is the appellant, U.S. Healthcare Associates, owner of the property at 372 Glen Rose. This case was heard by the board at April 17th's agenda. A motion was made to deny by Mr. Pepper, seconded by Mr. Cole. Those voting in favor of the motion to deny, or Mr. Pepper. Sorry, one second. Gentlemen, can I get you guys to step out into the hallway? Thank you. All right. Again, that motion was made to deny on April 17th, made by Mr. Pepper, seconded by Mr. Cole. Those voting in favor were Mr. Pepper, Mr. Cole, Mr. Ransom. Those in opposition to the case were Ms. Davis and Ms. Johnson. And the parties present there, Mr. Bradford, you were not present. Have you reviewed the case record in this case? All right. And do you wish to participate in the case?
Yes.
All right. And how do you vote, sir?
I vote no on the motion to deny.
Okay. Motion votes no on a motion to deny. With that failure of 4 votes and this case previously heard by 5 or more members, so this motion is going to fail. But there can be, after consulting our rules, there can be another motion. And so based upon the testimony, do any of the 4 members present have a new motion?
I'd make a motion that we approve it based upon the hardship of this property being extraordinarily shallow, the home that predated this fence being extremely close to the street frontage, closer than any adjoining properties along Glen Rose Avenue, and that hardship is sufficient to warrant a variance from the fence requirements.
I second.
All right.
Sounds like we got some persuading to do for our friend Mr.
Okay.
Pepper here.
Did you make a motion?
Yeah.
And is there a second? Okay, so discussion.
Yeah, I think I thought the deliberation, by the way, y'all are just fantastic people and so good at, I didn't feel like I didn't have to do any work coming into this. But I think that just looking at the properties kind of along the length of it, that house being so close, that fence, if the house was sited any other way on that street, he could build it as of right. And otherwise, I think this is just making it to where it would have to go through the middle of his house and to be solid.
Yeah, as I recall, though, that there's an alternative to what is up there now, which is something where you could take some of the panels out, and it would be more visible, and it would be code compliant. That was my issue with it. I get the hardship. I just think that.
Well, I think the thing though is that I think any other property on the street could have a solid fence that's code compliant, and so theoretically, if you looked at the whole street frontage, the way that this property is set up, it's the only one that potentially couldn't have a solid fence by right and would require a variance to do it. So, as I understand it, the idea is that we permit solid fences on properties based upon what the setbacks are at 10 feet. You know, and it's a similar concept to me that, I mean, someone's trying to build a structure in a particular location and that denying it just because there's an alternative sort of structure, I don't know if it's the case, because I mean, if we're looking at the actual property itself, I think that's the reason that the solid fence, the material, I think, is not necessarily material to the consideration as opposed to the nature of that land itself when considering whether a variance is warranted.
I think, what I would like us to consider is practicality, because that fence is 3 sides. And backside is okay as is, 6 foot, that solid. And then the other side is okay, and it has visibility from the corner that meets satisfaction. Only area we are talking about is front of the house. So do we require the applicant to shorter only that portion or remove the fence, one board so it can be visible from the street? And I think that approach is rather impractical because 2 sides meet requirement, and front, and especially that front is higher above the sidewalks. So it is not really requiring from the automobile visibility, standpoint. Yeah. And besides, if we require 10 feet, it would be the middle of the house. So I think that interpreting, literally will be harmful.
Well, and I think that also the act of, if we were to basically say either, if it was denied, then essentially the applicant's going to have to pull out a panel for just a portion of it. And so you're either going to get a fence that goes, 10 feet, then dips down and then dips back up, or you're going to get a fence that is solid and then is transparent for just this one portion of it. But if otherwise, we can't make him go transparent the whole sort of length of the fence, because he's got a right to do it at that other.
Well, but why can't he just pull a board off across the front?
I think the issue is that the applicant has stated that having a solid fence is a security piece of it. And I think because he's demonstrated that the lot and the way that the lot's set up has a hardship, that says that he's entitled to have a solid fence for most of that property, and that he doesn't necessarily have it, that if he were to build a fence the way any fence is going to be built, that he'd have to go through the middle of his house on it. So I also think that Ms. Johnson's point that the outcome would look pretty ridiculous to have a solid fence of this length, boards removed for this length of it, and then solid all the way around. I think this is yet again another example of we need council to pass some sort of fence permitting thing that basically would take this out of our hands, so that I think if you put something before codes that said, well, this is where this house is, he wants to put a solid fence, and if you had a permit that said, we're going to allow a single, unitary looking fence to be on this property, it'll be 10 feet back at this location, and then as the property and the house gets closer to the road, it's going to be closer. So,
I'll change my vote, and here's what I think of. One, if you pull a panel out, I don't know that it's going to make that big. I don't think it looks, there was no neighbor opposition as I recall, but I just think the appearance of it is, that's why we have the code. I don't know that it's going to look a lot better if you pull out a board. And I think it is a closed case, and also I do think I have a little empathy for the owner, since there is no, you don't have to get a permit to put up a fence.
Right.
So I will vote. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, so that passes.
Okay, that case passes on a vote of 4-0. And members, let's see, our next case will be Next case board will hear, case 2025-31, Mr. Jody Roberts, the appellant, 2801 in Delaware LLC, the owner of the property. They're requesting variance from street setback requirements in R6A. The appellant is seeking to construct two-family residence on the property. The board did hear this case at its April 17th meeting. You did keep the public hearing open, or definitely didn't expressly close it. So to be fair, we listed it as open. And Mr. Bradford?
Mr. Hargis, I'll state for the record, I watched all 8 hours of the deliberations at the last hearing and am going to participate.
Okay. All right. With that, you will be able
Is there
to.
opposition? Remind me, is there any opposition or no? Okay. There's not.
There are none present. All right, gentlemen, if you would please, let me just recap for the board kind of your code issues, and I'm going to put 5 minutes on the timer for you. Let me flip past this one. Okay. This is the request is to build a two-family dwelling on the lot. Two families consist of either two freestanding single-family dwellings on the same lot. This particular structure that is at issue is just one of the two structures. It's this one. And the zoning code requires a 20-foot setback off of 28th Avenue, which is 50% of the setback required by table on this corner lot. So they're required 20. They're requesting a 10-foot setback. This is a view of the property directly across the street to the north, view looking west of existing structures. Those zoning boundaries are different from our subject lot. This was the subject lot of my visit back on the 9th of April. And these are where the two homes would be constructed. The 20-foot setback runs along 28th, which is running north to south on the right-hand side. There's 28th again here. So that setback will be on that side street. And that's what we have. All right, gentlemen, I turn it over to you. You've got 5 minutes to present.
Thank you, Mr. Hargis. My name is John Michael from the Thompson Burton Law Firm, 1801 West End Avenue here in Nashville. I represent Jody Roberts on this appeal regarding the property at 2801 Delaware. As you'll recall from review of the record and also from the hearing, of course, on April 17, the request is for a variance based upon the unique hardship created by the built environment at this location. The intersection of 28th and Delaware is surrounded by multifamily townhomes, condos, single-family homes, a health clinic to the immediately south of that, a self-storage unit ensconced in thick concrete walls seemingly on all sides. And with those uses around us, the building has been an unusual pattern with different frontages along 28th, with different landscape orientation along 28th. And that pattern, despite the fact that we're on the MCSP arterial street at this location, yields a hardship in terms of complying with the 20-foot setback. Other properties, as you'll know, are close to zero on their setback. We're asking for partial relief down to 10 foot, not down to 5, and certainly not down to 0, but down to 10 feet for the side street setback for the two-family build as planned for this location. We've submitted an updated version of a memorandum. Looks like that's dated April 25 for the board's review and consideration. The third page in that document is, of course, a graphic. Thank you to my colleague, Mr. Bradford, his creation of this after he and I shot photos of the subject intersection just last week. What we've shown here is the direction of the photo and the location of the photo on that graphic. After the last discussion, we hope that'll be helpful in understanding what the sidewalk interaction looks like at each of those locations. And with the subject property in place right now that is ready for the two build, we believe that it's important to note that there is no harm to the neighborhood, the area, the other projects and residences around us posed by the request that we're making. We believe there will be better street activation realized by the 10-foot setback that we're requesting. And we believe that the house that we will build for this second house, closer to the corner, will actually be a better product for the family that chooses to buy it someday. I'll remind the board that there is support from the Metro Council member for this district, both with regard to the rezoning that made it two-family eligible and now for the variance request to reduce the side setback. And to date, I'm not aware that there's been any neighbor opposition or anybody else's opposition from the time of the filing of the case to today's second hearing. Humbly and respectfully, we ask for the board's approval of the variance request. Certainly, we invite any follow-up questions or other ideas that might need to be discussed today.
Any questions? Okay, discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciated, I think y'all sussed out about every single option, question, concern, thought during the last hearing. I mean, I know Mr. Ransom raised some questions about the sort of street walkability kind of component of it, but I mean, I think these photos are actually really helpful because, I don't know that the side of a residence is any less inviting and may in fact be more inviting than the brick retaining wall that's shown in the photographs. I think the nature of the fact that we've got a lot of sort of lot line builds around here indicates that, especially given the nature of this lot, I do think that in terms of, I appreciated the discussion over this unique and exceptional and its situation and conditions. I think that even if we're thinking about the strip of land itself at 2801 Delaware, I think the combination of the orientation of it onto Delaware instead of onto 28th for the proposed structures, coupled with the fact that you have a lot that's zoned R next to an RS5 across from an RMUL. Sort of, we've essentially got a lot of unique lots around here based upon what the zoning code is. So, I mean, I think that they've demonstrated based upon the land itself a hardship that warrants a grant of the variance.
Okay,
I'm in agreement. I have read and reread because review standards said start with physical characteristics of the property and exceptional narrowness and so forth, and talk about physical characteristic, but then followed by or. And then one of the or is other extraordinary and exceptional condition of such property. I think in this surrounding development pattern will meet the writing of other extraordinary and exceptional condition. And if we were to literally interpret the clause to insist 20 feet setback, it will be peculiar and practical difficulty. So with that, I think it will meet our review standards. So I am very comfortable with approving it.
okay. I am too, and I think I voiced my opinion about it last time, so I'll spare you all that. Ms.
Yeah,
Davis,
and I'll say I really appreciated the really good discussion about that last time. Thought it was good. And I think Mr. Michael made a really good point that essentially, the way the code is set up, we've got the sort of physical characteristics piece of it, but I don't think it's possible to sort of take away the physical characteristics of the land in context of what's around it and what, what the zoning does to where you can build and site things on it. There's no separating that out.
Well, I would like to say, I wasn't going to say anything, but you saying that made me want to say this because listen, Mr. Michael will be here again and I'm watching him take notes. I think that this was pretty close, at least it was for me, and this is sort of a new way that we're looking at that condition. And so from my perspective, it should be read very narrowly, and I think they met that. I agree, like looking at the context, I think that the applicant met that burden, but I just don't, in the future, because I don't really like the argument when people tell me everything else that's going around, like that doesn't really normally sway how I read the code or read how what your project is. So I just want to say that I think the applicant did an excellent job showing why this met this very narrow exception, and because they did that, that's why I'm willing to vote for it. And in the future, or for people who come before us again who want to cite this, I don't necessarily mean that I would be inclined to vote the same way.
And I totally agree with you, and I should clarify that a lot of it has to do, I think, with where things are in the built environment around it, because, if this were a circumstance where you had a bunch of older residential properties with 20-foot setbacks, and we were asking to do this as a first time, I'm not sure that they would have satisfied that standard here.
Yeah, I agree too. I think it's a very narrow exception, and I think we'll read it that way. I think the applicant demonstrated a lot of land development that this would just be anomalous, I think, if we, and that would create a hardship. And so, but I concur with what you're saying. So I'll make a motion that we approve the application based on the reasons that I've stated, that we've all stated.
Second.
All right. Okay, there's a motion, a second, all in favor? Okay, that passes.
Okay, that case is approved. Let's see, our next case, Mr. Chairman, will be case 2025-36. Jolo Enterprises LLC and Fifth Generation Partners, the owner of the property 2629 Gallatin Pike, requesting a variance from the front facade standards in the MULA district. The appellant is seeking to construct a drive-through commercial business. All right, let me pull up, Mr. Henry, if you don't mind, let me pull up.
And there's no opposition, it doesn't look like, okay.
There's not. Councilmember, were you here to speak on this case? Are there any parties in opposition to case 36?
I'm happy to speak to it since it's been before y'all before, and it's different now, and I'm happy to share my thoughts about that.
Okay, do you wish to do that prior to the applicant, after?
Whatever y'all prefer.
Okay, I tell you what, let me go through the slides first, and then I'll turn it over to you right after that, because I do want to give a little history about this case. First, to remind you, members, that this case is a new case, so things that happened in the past are in the past. Don't bring those into this testimony. It should be based strictly off testimony provided today. But I do want to give you a little historical background. This did come before you previously as a coffee shop, originally oriented east and west on the property. So the site plan looked a little different in that case. And what's also changed since that time, we have made a change in our office as far as determination of what was required. So what was previously before the board were essentially two variances on each street, that the building had to sit 60% of the length of those two streets. We've changed our interpretation, or I have, to say, really, there's only one front. I mean, you can have frontages, as the code talks about, but there's only really one front facade. And in this case, that front facade is oriented toward Gallatin Pike, and that's where the variance is located. So there's no variance required along Delmas to the north. It's just along Gallatin Pike. And in this particular case, I'm considering the variance to be off of the underlying lots. This parcel exists currently as three. I'll show you on the property maps, but there are three underlying parcels here that reestablished by deed. One of those cuts through the parking lot here that this parcel sits on, that this project sits on. So the numbers that are reflected up here in the upper right-hand corner are based upon the lot width of the underlying lot and how much they're putting along that front lot. So the existing building's 37 feet across. They're required 54. So the variance is 17 feet along this piece of it. So in views looking, again, the site plan has changed. The orientation of the building's changed to put the longer face on Gallatin Road, which is the front facade. And then you see their queuing line, and they've got a little patio seating area proposed here. Even if they covered it, I can't count that as front facade because it has to have solid wall. We had, if you've driven Gallatin Road in the past, our office allowed a competitor, Dunkin' Donuts, to do kind of a false wall to meet that 60 foot. We're not going to do that again. It at the time seemed like a reasonable idea. It just, in the real world practice, it doesn't look great. So we made the decision in our office that we're not going to do that again. So we're doing this application of the code to do that. And it's been fairly successful since the time of the last appeal to now of applying that standard along these sites. This is a view on Delmas looking east toward Gallatin Pike. And then a look at the current site. The City Gear buildings. Yeah, City Gear is going to stay there. This construction actually will occur along about where these parking spaces are here. So the building on the site plan, sitting north-south oriented on the street, there's the City Gear building to remain. And then, so that parking lot's going to get taken out, new building, new parking going in here. And this is that large existing parking lot on the site to the west. That's there today. I think there's a donation facility to donate clothes and things on the back of that. That's a third tenant on the property. Again, this view looking east toward Gallatin Pike, and the orientation of the building would be just off the left-hand side of this photo. And then this is... Building will face Gallatin. The long portion of this, the front facade in that building layout is that will be along this Gallatin Road facing side. These were plans submitted from the prior case, but I put these up here to give you an idea of the length of the facade. The overall, I don't think the overall length of the building's changed, but the view of this may be different. And we'll look at that on the constructions when they apply for the building permits. But they'll have a front facade facing Gallatin Pike. The other change too of orienting it on the corner lots where it had to be at a street, it just made more sense to declare the shorter lot lines front. That's how everywhere in the zoning code it's laid out. And then not apply a front facade standard to both streets. The code does require them to be as close to the intersection as possible, and they are doing that. Twofold. The reason they're not any closer to the road, to the existing right-of-way, is one, as you see this note here, they're basing their setback off the MCSP, the Major Collector Street Plan standard, which basically puts that building sitting right on that standard. Additionally, there's also utility easements that exist in this space. They can't bring that building any closer to Gallatin. So the zoning code allows me as zoning administrator to set that setback. So that's basically what we've got here is just the length of that facade along the parcel length of that. So that's kind of how it's changed from the last time out. All right, council member, I will turn it over to you if you want to come forward and say any words. You're welcome to come to the lectern here or up to the table, wherever you'd like.
I'll sit here.
Okay.
Face everybody.
Sounds good.
All right, so I'm Councilmember Sean Parker, represent the 5th District where this property is located, the subject of the appeal. I know that y'all are going to be careful to not bring the historical details in, as Joey advised, but I came here for a previous appeal on this property, and I had pretty serious concerns about site access, about safety, and about how that variance, the previous variance, would have interacted with planned pedestrian safety improvements. This is Delmas's, it's a very painstaking effort to get a sidewalk retroactively installed anywhere in a Nashville neighborhood, and we were able to do that on Delmas. It took several years of work to get there. So anyway, the transit access, walkability, all of that, I had concerns with the last appeal, but what the applicant has done with this second submission, they've removed the curb cuts on Gallatin, which, if you're familiar with the area, we've got some really popular businesses. We've got the hardware store, YMCA. There's lots of different directions that folks can turn in and out of those commercial properties along Gallatin, up and down Gallatin, and kind of concentrating that ingress and egress to side streets that are signalized is a major safety improvement rather than having potentially folks making left turns from 6 different spots in the same block. So that's the biggest improvement with this submission that I just wanted to highlight and say that I'm much more comfortable with that aspect of this site plan. They also, the initial proposal was for drive-through only, so there was not walk-up window, there was not patio seating, anything like that. And it's my understanding they have proposed to have a walk-up window and patio seating to kind of, again, mesh better with the kind of long-term plans and infrastructure improvements that we're making in this area, such as the new sidewalk along Delmas. So most of my concerns that I brought to y'all in the last round have been addressed. And so I just wanted to come let y'all know that, because I was so adamantly concerned in the last round that I wanted to let y'all know that those concerns have been addressed for me. So thanks for being here today. And if you have any questions for me, I'll hang out and listen.
I have a question.
Yes.
So one of the things I do remember, not that the prior case matters, but this did matter in the Dunkin' Donuts case. It wasn't just the front facade. We also made them go back because there was a concern about traffic overflowing onto Gallatin, because Gallatin is a 2-lane, and not dealing with the front facade issue, but as someone that lives in this area, Dunkin' Donuts never has overflow traffic onto Gallatin whenever I'm driving by, even during peak hours. And I think that is because we pushed all that driveway traffic to the back of the building. And I remember that being a concern last time with this new design. Is that still a concern, or do you think the light now at Delmas and Gallatin will address that?
I think the light and the fact that the ingress and egress is no longer the 2 curb cuts on Gallatin.
Okay.
I think that's going to significantly improve that situation. The fact that there's really ample parking remaining on the site, I think most sensible folks would pull into the parking area rather than hang out on Delmas. If there was a condition where there was traffic backing up, I think that the kind of snaky nature of the drive-through lane will help address a lot of that, but also just the kind of abundant parking that's going to remain on the site.
And I think not that it matters, but I don't remember all that parking staying last time either, but I could be wrong. But I think you're right. I was just asking because you were here last time too, and I wondered if you felt like this addressed it, and it sounds like it does. So that was my only question.
I believe it does. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Well, thank you, Council Member, for addressing this issue. Because I was concerned by approving the facade reduction, initially approving the drive-through, but it sounded like neighborhood very embrace of the new design and idea, and you have no concern about the neighborhood street being ingress and egress.
I mean, it's a challenge for that area, but it's the nature of concentrating our commercial uses on the corridors. I mean, there's a number of allowable uses under the existing zoning that could present issues. I mean, it remains a concern, but I think that this plan addresses that concern much, much better than the previous iteration does.
And I mean,
Thank you.
just because I have to disclose it on the record, I'm very familiar with the site. I grew up close to the site, and across the street currently used to be a thrift store that would stay super busy. And so there would always be a lot of traffic coming out on Delmas because of the thrift store, and people would normally park where they're proposing this. So I will say that you are correct, that there's normally a lot of congestion on Delmas, especially now with that development over the railroad tracks at the end of the street, so.
Absolutely.
Any more questions for the council? Okay, thank you, sir. We'll go to
I'll be here.
the applicants, Mr. Henry. And I think you've got 5, 10 is showing, but I think there's no opposition, so I think you just.
I was just going to double check. Is there any opposition present to this case in front of the board? Seeing none. Yes? Speak. We can. Well, I take. We'll get him.
I think we should probably just treat that as opposition.
Yeah. No, we'll
Until
let
we-
them come,
until we
and
know
you'll
what-
come up and present, like your concerns and such right after they talk. That'd be the best way. That way we get you on microphone too, so it goes to record. All All yours. Yes, sir.
My name's Mike Lorraine. I live at 1218 Kirkland Avenue in East Nashville. I am an Inglewood resident, as Mr. Hargis had alluded to, and everyone has just addressed that we have been here before about this site. And first and foremost, we want to make sure people know that we listen to the feedback, we listen to the commentary, we listen to Councilmember Parker, and we tried our best to make sure that this was something that was accommodating to the community, having a walk-up window, closing curb cuts, making it pedestrian-friendly. It's a concern for us as a business, but also as residents of East Nashville. We did want to embrace all of those changes. And we heard everybody loud and clear. So we appreciate the opportunity to come back and present this. We think it's going to be a definite asset to the block, improve that corner. But safety and easeability of use is certainly a concern of ours. And I think our design incorporates that to make sure that we can accommodate customers, but also not impact the traffic flow and be ready for that. So we thank you for your consideration on this.
Chairman Pepper and members of the commission, my name's Sean Henry, 500 11th Avenue North, here representing the property owner and assisting Jolo Enterprises as they're going to be conducting themselves here as Scooter's Coffee on this important corner. The variance in question here is 17 feet shy of full compliance, strict compliance with the length of that front facade along Gallatin Pike. And if you can see on the site plan, in addition to that proposed building facade of 37 feet, there's an additional 14 feet. I don't think that's called out in the measurement, but the engineer told me it's 14 feet, the patio on the south side, proposed patio, and then on the north side, another 15 feet of proposed patio that would run up next to the sidewalk. So those are not roofed, they're not enclosed. But if you were to consider that as activation space where people are sitting outside in a chair, sitting at a table, standing, talking, drinking, their drinks and eating their food, the whole purpose of the mixed-use limited alternative zoning provisions, which, by the way, were adopted for this area 12 years ago, and then the urban zoning overlay, believe it or not, did not extend to this area until 6 years ago. That was done in 2019. But when you compare the criteria for site development in the alternative zoning districts, inside the urban zoning overlay district, the whole purpose is to get important street corners activated with not only pedestrian activity, but building activity. And that's what's happening here. And here you're going to have a walk-up window. I would submit that there's hardly anything more active than someone being able to walk up and down Gallatin Pike and peel off the sidewalk and walk up to a window and order a drink or some food. And so that's an important public policy that Nashville has incorporated throughout the UZO and throughout the alternative zoning districts. And this submission substantially complies with that, except for, the 17 feet. And so you may ask, well, why couldn't you do the 17 feet? Why couldn't some of that building be extended? Mike can explain that, but Scooter's Coffee as a national brand has a footprint. They've got a prototype. They know how they operate best. The last thing they want to do is build another 17 feet of indoor space that's sitting there vacant and unused and not part of their business model, because they're paying rent on that. They're paying rent on that to my client. So the front facade is the issue. The front facade definition talks about having elements such as windows. You saw a picture of the window that will front onto Gallatin Pike, also fronting onto the interior where the drive-through is located. And from a hardship standpoint, I've included in my letter that I sent in on April 23, I included all of the criteria for justifying a variance. And the principal one in my mind seems to be the fact that the easement that runs through this property, and it's vaguely referenced, sort of hard to see, but it's labeled on the site plan. It runs pretty much right through where the driveway is coming on off Delmas Avenue. That easement was acquired by Metro in 1967, and that easement shortens the depth of this property greatly. And so the only buildable area that you have is in between that easement and Gallatin Pike. And so there's very little room to build anything on here and provide parking, et cetera. And so we would submit that the shallowness of this property is really what creates a challenge in complying strictly with the zoning code provisions. I went into some other responses, and the question of whether there's going to be any harm to the public welfare as a result of the variance that we're asking for, we would submit that no, in fact, the approval of this variance will result in, as Councilman Sean Parker just mentioned, the closure of those two existing driveway ramps at Gallatin Pike. So those will be eliminated entirely, letting Delmas Avenue serve as the sole means of ingress and egress for this property. And obviously the public benefits out there along Gallatin Pike is safer pedestrian movement and the ability to, I can envision people getting their coffee here before they get on the new WeGo bus system as they travel up and down, Gallatin Pike. So happy to answer any questions. Could spend more time on my letter if you wanted to, but that pretty much wraps me up.
I have a question for Mr. Henry. Is that okay?
What's that?
I have a question. Is that okay?
Sure, yeah.
Mr. Henry, I really respect you, and I'm not trying to throw you a curveball. But then when the opposition on Delmas they'll come up with their question. But I anticipate them saying this because as I thought about the area, which I hadn't thought about in a minute, with this design. So the people who live on Delmas are unfortunately, unlike the other streets in the area, they only have one way in and one way out. There's no other way out of that street. They have to go over the railroad tracks, down Chickasaw, down Jones to hit Trinity. So it's not really practical. The only way they get out of their neighborhood is on Gallatin. I anticipate, I could be wrong, the opposition might ask about, are we sure, because this is a driveway business, I've seen scooters before, there's one in Rivergate where it's all drive-through traffic. So that is a little different than like the other businesses that used to be there where it would be people would come and park their cars. There wouldn't be this constant flow of like kind of traffic. Hopefully if this business does well, where people are constantly in the drive-through. Have you all thought about that? And I'm not trying to throw you a curveball, but I just thought about it as we were talking, like, generally, you'd probably be right, there is normally a benefit, but this street's a little different because those people who live on Delmas don't have another way in and out of their houses except for on Gallatin.
Well, the site plan itself, you see there's nine cars in queue there going into the window. And then there's almost, we don't know, we don't have it depicted, but you can imagine a doubling of that, of stacking when you pull in off of Delmas Avenue onto the property and sort of, so you end up with sort of an S pattern of vehicles maneuvering on this site. We believe, based on what Scooter's Coffee has informed, Mike and the team and the engineers, that there's adequate queuing room on this property, on this site, to not have a backup issue on Delmas Avenue.
Okay.
And the other benefit is, to the left is the lot number 42, which makes up this entire piece of property. There's room in there, for additional stacking if necessary.
Okay. That was my question. Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, you all have 4 minutes left for rebuttal if you need it, and we'll hear from, there was someone in the back that I couldn't quite hear, but if you could sit where that red microphone is, see where it's lit up, and if you'll give us your name and address.
My name is Buis Hardison. I live at 1018 Delmas, which is the 3 houses down from the coffee place. My concern is this, is that, she's right. You can't get out of Delmas, especially if there's a train. If the train is just, there's no way to get out. But we have, you have the fitness place on one side. They park where you can't see if you're making a left turn out. If you're making a left turn towards Inglewood, you can't see because of the way they're parking. And now you're bringing in more parking. I don't know if this is an objection, but it seems like you either have to do something with the lights because you also have the issue where people are just walking back and forth across the street, so it's not just cars, it's the people who are coming up to the Y, up to the fitness place, moving back and forth, jumping back and forth across the street. That slows it down. And then the other concern I would have, if you look at how that lot is being used now, during the summer, you have organizations that do car washes there. They do fish fries there. City Gear has a tennis shoe drop. It means that a lot of kids come during that day and they pile up there just to get the new tennis shoes that are coming out. So you have that there. I mean, there's a lot of things that lot is already being used for. And I know those things are probably going to go away. So I'm not objecting to that. My objection is it's hard enough to pull out of my driveway and go on Delmas just because of the way the cars come up. And when I've walked past Dunkin' Donut in the mornings, because I walk that way, there is an overflow. I mean, I've seen them back up, get out of their cars, park in the payday loan thing, run across there, get their food, get their stuff, and then get back in the cars. So there's a backup there. And it seems like we may end up doing the same thing. We have that same kind of backup. You won't be able to get out of Delmas. I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but it seems like it's not just parking, it's traffic control.
I think we understand, I understand your concerns, so, yeah.
Okay, that's it.
I think there's a guy sitting right behind you in a pink shirt that could probably help you with some of that too.
Okay. We've already talked.
You've got 4 minutes left.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We certainly don't need all that time. Of course, the property could be redeveloped with much more intensity than what's being proposed here, and the traffic situation could be far worse than it certainly is today and what it might be after Scooter's Coffee. But my understanding, and Councilman Parker can explain this a little deeper, but my understanding is there's a brand new light there, brand new traffic light at Delmas and Gallatin Pike. And the timing of that signal probably should be studied by NDOT, after this business is up and running, and keep an eye on it. I know Councilman Parker is going to keep an eye on it. And it may be necessary for NDOT to come back out and take a look at the timing of that signal and make sure that there's no backups, there's no problems there. So that's what we would submit as sort of like an operational evaluation. There's an opportunity with that signal being there to address some issues. But if that signal wasn't there, then it'd be hard to resolve.
One thing I want to just make sure is on the record, Mr. Henry, that I think is probably important for the opposition here, but also just for our purposes too, is that, but for the frontage variance, your client could still build a drive-through business at this intersection by right without having to come to this board at all.
Yeah, that's right. I appreciate that. Let me even supplement that, if I may. The variance at issue, even if they were going to build a code-compliant facade building, it's not going to alter the traffic situation. So, that's all we have to say. Happy to answer any questions.
Sorry. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll discuss. Well, I understand the neighbor's issue about the traffic, but we're just not NDOT, and I understand your concern too. And I do think there could be, by right, a lot more intense uses than what the applicant is asking for. And if we were, I think clearly to me, there is a hardship here with the sewer easement that runs about, takes a substantial part of the property away. So I see a hardship. I know that if there's substantial harm to the neighborhood, if we grant it, then, we can, even if there's a hardship, we shouldn't grant it. But, traffic's a problem for everybody in Nashville now. Let's face it. And there's going to be more cars. And I'm fine with trusting NDOT to deal with this, particularly since there could be more intense uses. And I think I can see where, in a lot of ways, a coffee shop, there's going to be busier times of the day, probably the morning. But to me, I just don't think that is a high intensity use. But
Yeah, if we were talking about a Chick-fil-A with 2 drive-through lines like the one on 8th Avenue that clogs up stuff constantly, we'd be in a little bit different scenario. But yeah, and I think you're right, because I think something that occurred to me was, there's not really a nexus between the traffic issues and the variance request. The traffic issues could exist regardless of what the board did, what this board does, that the traffic issues could happen if the applicant built something by right without any approval from anybody at all. So that doesn't mean it's good. It's the reality, I think, of what's going on. I also, I think that the fact that they're requesting a modification of the facade, but that essentially is going to be replaced by outdoor seating is a positive thing. Your red light is on.
I know, I was waiting for you to finish.
Sorry.
Oh, no. I didn't want to interrupt you. Are you done?
Yeah.
Are you sure? I didn't. I would first like to say I appreciate the neighbor coming out. I don't think this is an easy meeting to attend, and I think sometimes people feel like what they say doesn't matter, and so I do appreciate it, and I think it's important to say, like, it sounds like if there is an approval, it's not because people don't care about the traffic issue, it's just that the request isn't necessarily related to the traffic issue. So I think that's if I'm hearing Mr. Bradford and our chair correctly, it's the front facade issue doesn't impact the traffic, because it no matter what goes there, there's going to probably be an increase in traffic. Did I understand that right?
Yeah, that's why I was trying to direct the opposition to speak with Mr. Parker, because I believe that those are legitimate concerns.
And I'm not saying that, this one's a little hard for me because I think I do understand. I think like harm to the surrounding area is the one that I've been thinking about. That doesn't mean that I don't really know at this moment how I'm going to vote, but I will say that I think it's a little different. I don't like negotiating in the dark, meaning I know that, I've heard a lot, people always say, well, we could do this instead and it would be worse. Like, that's not what's before me. What's before me is this. So I'm going to look at this request and I'm not going to think about what else might come, because I just think that that's sort of an unfair way, because I don't know what else could come. Like, that's sort of like, I don't know, so it's like a boogeyman. The boogeyman could come, and so therefore you should just be thankful that I don't like arguing with it that way. So I understand. And also, like I said, this street is a little different because there's no way out. This Gallatin's their only way out. But to your point, the council person is here and they can deal with traffic. And like you said, Mr. Chair, which you're right, traffic is bad everywhere. And it could be a more intense use that might impact getting in and out of the street even worse, because it's on Gallatin, so it's a commercial area, and so there's always going to be that issue. So I was just saying that for the record, for the benefit of the
100% with you on on that idea that we could do this here. That's never been something that's persuasive to me. That it could be.
And I understand that's not what you guys were saying. You were saying the front facade variance has nothing to do with it.
Right. I think that's my thing, is that it's it's that that the problem that's been identified is not something that what we do or don't do is not going to change it. So. And
I think the chair also brought up a good point about the sewer line easement, which we didn't focus a lot of time on, but this is going to make this property, no matter what is likely built here, it's probably going to require a variance because of the easement, because this property does have a hardship. Right. So I think that I'm glad that the chairman pointed that out, because I did forget about that. That was something that we should consider. So thank you. I'm done talking. I'm sorry.
I agree everything was said. I think my biggest concern was harm to the surrounding neighborhood. But nature of the business and zoning, no matter what, we cannot reduce existing traffic or, by facade reducing. It's those two different issues. So I think safety and neighborhood walkability activation, we would like to rely on council member, keep listening to the neighborhood, and then work with NDOT to traffic timing and traffic count. appropriate time. But I think the facade reduction meets the guideline because of the sewer and also the like a patio activation will act as a facade in a way. So I think reducing 17 feet of the facade will be compensated with store patio activation.
Sounds like it may be time for a motion. So I'll make a motion, we approve.
Second?
Make a motion, we approve based on, I should state, with the hardship being the sewer easement running across this property, so.
Second?
Second, okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, that passes. Thank y'all.
Okay, that case is granted. Our final case of the day, case 2025-37. Ms. Jamie Schlink, the appellant and owner of the property at 1401 Presley Drive. Let me get over to that case. Sorry, one second. The applicant's requesting a special exception to allow for the use as an in-home daycare home, large under the zoning code. Referred to the board under section 17-16-260. The appellant has alleged jurisdiction under section 1740, 180 item B. Are there parties present in opposition to the case? Parties in support? Oh, okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. As I address the board today, I'll ensure the record.
All right, with that, so no opposition. We'll have 5 minutes. Let me show the slides and such first, and we'll get started.
Hi, my name is Allie Ford. I actually live next door to 1401, the property in question. I'm at 1403 Preston.
Oh, 1 second, Ms. Ford.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Let me go through the slides for the board first.
Oh, sure.
And then I'll turn it over to you
Sorry about
guys. 1 second there. Sorry. Somehow I'm stuck on that map. There we go. All right. The subject property is located on the east margin at Preston and McKinnell avenues over in East Nashville. The see on the aerial photograph here that this is actually a duplex use on the lot of 2 HPRs, the first one being located just to the north of the site. This is the subject property at question and their portion of the property. And this is a view looking from McKinnell, looking north into the site. The fence here, we've been talking about fences lately. That fence complies with the code. Happy to report. So, and I'm actually going to use this slide in a week to train zoning inspectors. So this will be an excellent photograph to use to show them what a compliant fence looks like.
Good fences make good zoning inspectors.
They hopefully good fences along with permit requirements from the Metro Council. He's left. Would make a lot of people's lives easier. This is a view from the front from Preston. I think I've got my streets right. So looking in the site, and then a view. This is further down. Looking in, their driveway cuts in off the side street, and they've got kind of a fenced area, which you see back here on this side. Yep, that fence complies. So that'll be a playground area located at the back of the site. But with that, I'll turn it over to the appellants this time. Just double checking, no opposition. Everybody's here is for this? All right, good. 5 minutes to present your case to the board.
Okay, so like I said, my name's Allie Ford. I live in the house that's behind the White House that you can see in that photo there at 1403. I've been in Nashville since 2013, but have been in that house since 2020. This is my mother-in-law, Jamie Schlink. She lives right next door to me. This is the house in question that we're wanting to get a special exception to have an in-home daycare in the back addition on the house. It's a 1,000 square foot apartment addition. And we got the vision to have a daycare space there because I have 2 young kids, who you definitely heard from at the beginning of this meeting in the back of the room, who are 4 and 3. And we have explored many of the different daycare options that are available in East Nashville. And there are so many great options, but just not enough options to accommodate the number of kids that are in the neighborhood. And as evidenced by the fact that my kids have been on various wait lists for months or sometimes years at a time. And we've talked to so many other families who are in the area who are also struggling to find the type of childcare that they're looking for. And when we started the renovation on Jamie's house and built this addition and started brainstorming about what we could do with it, we could have an Airbnb here, or we could rent it out to a permanent resident or something like that, or we could turn this into a space where my two kids and many of their friends, people that they've met in the neighborhood, could come together and have a Montessori-inspired learning space that they were directed by a teacher. And so that's what we're wanting to do with the space. We've talked to a lot of the neighbors and brought many of them with us who are in support of this, and we brought all our kids with us so that you could see that there's just like the whole neighborhood is teeming with kids who need more spaces just like this so that they can play and learn and be curious, especially preschool age kids. There are also a couple of great, schools in the area. Dan Mills is in the area, Rosebank is in the area, but kids that are my kids' ages, 3, 4, and 5, who aren't quite ready yet to go to kindergarten, it's becoming more and more difficult to find spaces for those kids to be. So we want to just create another really small neighborhood-based learning space where kids can come and be curious and have experiences, both indoor and outdoor. We're wanting to keep the space really small. Even at maximum, I think we could have up to 10 unrelated kids in the space, so 12 including our 2 kids. It is an HPR lot, so we share the same property. So everybody who lives on the property, with the licensure would have to be background checked and CPR, and we're prepared to, complete all of those requirements to get our licensure after the zoning requirement is completed. And I can answer any other questions if there's questions, but that's kind of our vision for the space. And happy to answer any other questions if you have them.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I see the addition off the back, and that looks like a very new driveway, which is nice. Is that where you're planning to direct people for pickup and drop off?
Yeah, that right-hand door, there's 2 green doors on the back addition. The right-hand door would be the entrance door for the daycare. And then once you're inside there, the second door on the left stays locked at all times. That right door, once all the kids were inside, would also stay locked. And it also is important to mention that the only way into or out of the space is that one door. So even when you go outside into the play area, there's no gate on that side fence. So the kids there's no way for them to leave the backyard except for going back in through the addition, which we did to keep the kids as safe as possible in that space.
Thank you.
And just to confirm, you all live and intend to continue living here?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have no intention to leave. And, we had some questions about maybe traffic and stuff, but I'm picturing like our kids will be a part of this. And then if we max out our capacity at say 10 kids, maximum amount of cars that would be coming into and out of this space would be 8 cars. But even if you have, a lot of the families we've talked to who are interested in joining have siblings that would want to come, so even fewer cars. And the driveway is big enough to fit 6 to 7 cars, so I don't see traffic being an issue. There's also entrances on McKennell and then also on Himes around the corner. It's a loop, and so you can come into or out of the neighborhood either way. So I really don't see traffic being an issue.
But we're also looking at the time limit being probably from 9 to
3.
To 3, not like
Ma'am, can you
6:30 in
state
the
your-
morning drop off.
Ma'am, can you state your name and address?
Oh,
If you're gonna
yes,
speak.
Jamie Schlink, 1401 Preston Drive.
Okay, thank you.
Joey, do you mind putting up the requirements for a special exception for this? I'm assuming that they meet all of them, but I know that we have to go through it, so that's all.
Yes, ma'am. I'll pull those up for you.
And the fence that's along the side, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the side street that's along.
McKennell?
Yeah, McKennell. So that's it. Do you have some space between the fence and the side of the road where, like, if someone had to
Correct.
park
Yes.
quickly to
Yes.
walk? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Thanks. I have 2 small children I have to drop off at daycare every morning, and it is.
You know how it
never-
is.
It's never
Yes.
quick.
Yeah. We also are planning a rolling drop-off between 8:30 and 9, and then a rolling pickup between 2:30 and 3 to hopefully accommodate some of that.
And I'm sorry, I'm
Thank
trying to
you.
shrink this down to, it's all on there. These members of the board, Ms. Davis, like yourself, Mr. Pepper, these rules have actually changed over the last year or two. The requirements for daycare home lodge are there.
This isn't a large one though, right?
Yes.
Oh, it is?
Large is 7 to 12.
Oh, okay.
So, just to go through these, we know that it's an occupied residence, so check. The lot size meets the minimum lot area, check. The street standard, they've shown the picture of the driveway access on the back of the home, so that's a check. Spacing, it doesn't, looks from reading it, it doesn't seem like it's in a public right of way, and they, as Joey said, they made a fence that was right. There's an outdoor play area that's also fenced in, and that, of course, they've already testified that they'll meet all the requirements pertaining to the state, and then there's no, that last one, we don't have to, it's not applicable. So it looks like, just going through those, they meet the standard of a special exception, and I'm supportive, so I don't have anything else unless you guys had questions.
Just one, if I could, just one comment. To give y'all, on these daycare centers, we don't, or homes, we don't see them as many as we used to. Council made them permitted by right for 5 to 7 children. But the big one for us is number 6, all the requirements of the state. The state heavily regulates their folks' day-to-day operations. And we do, from time to time, get because the state comes and actually inspects them and says, hey,
Correct.
coach, you might want to know, here's what we saw, and then we'll get involved. So there's a lot of good oversight at the state level for these uses.
Well, then I'll make a motion that because all of the requirements of a special exception are met for this daycare home, that we approve it.
Second.
Okay, you got 2 seconds. All right, motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, that passes.
All right. Case is approved on a vote 4-0. Just be sure to follow up with codes beginning
Thank you.
Monday if there are other sign-offs. Besides, the zoning sign-offs will be taken
Okay.
care of.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you much. And Mr. Chairman, that adjourns us for the day. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.